My name's Steve Hoyk. I run S&S Promotions for about 14 years. I book both Rockpiles, Rockpile East, Rockpile West, including the Phoenix, out-of-town shows from Montreal to Ottawa, to anything that comes my way. Really is all I've been doing for the last 15 years. Well, that's kind of a touchy subject with me. The way I got into it was about 15 years ago. My son had a band called Futures Past. And I used to, go around. They used to have to sell the tickets and everything else to play the shows and that. And I always looked at how other promoters did things and everything else, and I found there was a better way to do it by actually making sure a local band's got a cut of the money, which nobody was doing at the time. So when I came into it and kind of changed the way tickets were done and everything else, so like opening bands had a chance to make some money actually. Even the young ones that were like 16 years old that really didn't have any experience whatsoever or anything else, I'd give them half a chance. Half the time, sometimes they would walk out with $600, where, the measly little bit of money that would come in our way wouldn't be that much. It was really about, getting my kids' band treated the way I think, everybody should be treated, and that's how I started my business, was by treating other bands the way I wanted my kids' band to be treated. Well, I was dealing with the Big Bop. Same guy that owns the Rockpile right now owned the Big Bop back, 5 years ago. And when I first started doing the shows, he's the one that, talked me into like, hey, why don't you try it on your own? There was companies out there doing, 15 band shows, right? So I came out with just doing 4 bands a night, so it wasn't just like a big talent show. It actually became a show then, and that's how I started everything too, and that's why all the bands generated to me, because they were, sick of just being one out of, 15 bands getting 20 minutes up there, and we just made them real shows with 4 bands, right? That's a hard question. I would guess, the Swollen shows I've been doing, and Mad Child and that have been freaking great. They're always fun, but I've had Sid Wilson in here from Slipknot, which I'm a huge Slipknot fan, so for me to book Sid Wilson was like a big deal to me. You know what I mean? But yeah, the Michael Shankers, the Uli John Roths, the Striper shows. It's like there's been so many sold out shows. Like I had UFO here last month. Hadn't been to Canada in 26 to 29 years. So that was just a thing in my own cap, that I put in there and got to do, right? I did Yngwie Malmsteen, I did Vince Neil, Queensryche. So it's, there's so many of them, you can't really pinpoint what's been the best, you know what I mean? When I get offered a big act, I think I've done one major touring act that didn't allow me to do locals out of everything I've done in the last 15 years. I won't even usually take a headliner unless they're gonna let me put a couple of local bands in it, to help it out. That's just the way I started my business, so that's just the way I keep it going. I'd say within 2 years, I had about 300 local bands that I was working with, so I was doing like maybe sometimes even 4 to 5 venues on the same day with, like 5 or 6 locals in each one. Back then it was a different scene. You could actually fill an opera house or a Phoenix with just local bands. You didn't need that headliner, to do it, because it was just everybody for Christmas was asking for a guitar. Nowadays, everybody's asking for the Xbox or this or that, right? You couldn't walk through the halls, I don't think, of a school without at least 4 or 5 kids in every class being in a band at that time, right? So it was a whole different business and easier to generate the shows back then, so. Have a lot of time on your hands. It's a 24-hour day job. It's probably the most stressful job. You can actually go in, people think it's all fun and games. I've had 7 interns in the last year. None of them are here. So, all came in with, stars in their eyes, everything else, and when they actually see what the job entails, it's like I said, you've got to be available 24 hours a day. You've got to know you're going to have a nightmare at night to think about and try to fix the problem by the next day, especially if you're doing as many shows as I am. It's like there can be some pretty big nightmares in there to handle, and you gotta be able to take it on the chin and move on, you know what I mean? You can't think you're gonna make money off every show. I do about probably about 200 shows a year almost right now, and shit, if 100 of them out of the 200 make money, you can move on and just keep on going. So it's just, it's a long haul. It's a long haul. You better be really into stress,